Well, hello and welcome to another Evolve Alliance Provider Member Showcase video. Today I have with me Amanda Daff from Employment Innovations. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, Sue. Lovely to be here today.
Look, we are so thrilled to have you on board as a provider member. HR, people and culture, it is a significant issue in a lot of advice firms. We know that when you're dealing in financial advice, you don't have products, you don't have widgets. Your advice is the product, and what is delivering that product is humans. And there's lots of use of technology in advice businesses, but if there's one thing that will usually cause the biggest challenge, it is the people in a business. So that's why we reached out to find you to be able to provide an awesome solution to our clients. So how would you describe, in a nutshell, in a sentence or a paragraph, how would you describe what Employment Innovations does?
Absolutely. Look, I guess in a nutshell, we exist, or we get up in the morning really to make managing employment easier. We are under no misconceptions that we are in one of the most complex labour environments in the world. And as you mentioned, in a service-based business, people are our product. We are our people. In these particular industries, when we look at financial service providers, we have incredible amounts of regulation in all aspects of our environment, including people. And it's really important that financial service providers leverage ways to keep it as simple as possible in order to protect the business, protect the employees, and get the most out of their team and employees.
Yeah, that's a great summary. And we all know that the compliance in financial advice, it's hard enough to stay on top of that in terms of delivering your services. For firms to be able to stay on top of HR law and compliance in that, it's a big ask. So we know that you provide a great outsourced service to support firms. I think what we might do is hit play. You've got a great little summary video, which is your head of HR operations, I believe, talking, that really summarizes what you do as a firm. So we might click play on that.
Absolutely.
You're not alone when it comes to solving your HR needs, and that's why we have our HR partner service. So here's a snapshot of how it works and what you need to know. When you make the decision to partner with us, you'll be introduced to your HR partner. Now, even though you'll have one dedicated partner, they're supported by a team of the highest caliber HR professionals. We collaborate regularly to ensure we're staying up to date with all of the latest developments within the HR space. This means we can deliver the most innovative tools and strategies to your business. To start, we'll lock in a kickoff meeting, which is a great opportunity for you to get to know your partner and for us to gain an understanding of your business. We'll learn about your overall business objectives and whether you have any pressing issues that are needing immediate resolving. If you've signed up for our HR software, we'll walk you through the implementation process so that you can hit the ground running. Next, we begin with the strategic planning process. This process will include assessing your current state of HR, setting out the future state, and identifying the top priorities and action items to get us there. We'll take you through our unique HR health check, a core element of our lean HR methodology. This helps us gain a strong understanding of the areas of HR that are important to you and your business objectives. We're always asking ourselves what area of HR, if improved, would have the biggest impact on your business's success. Out of this, we'll be able to deliver you meaningful project recommendations and formulate a 12-month HR plan with realistic deadlines and a future state of HR. Next up, we'll work with you to successfully roll out these HR priorities. Because we like to be realistic, we know people and running a business can be unpredictable. Your HR partner will support you regardless of whether it's in your HR plan or not when it comes to unforeseen HR priorities. Sometimes we may need to adjust timelines, pivot priorities, and divert our attention in a different direction. Your HR partner will provide flexibility and is there as a trusted advisor in your corner. Finally, at the end of the plan, we'll review and reflect on what we've achieved together, how we've moved the dial, and the improvements we've made to the health of your HR function. We then undertake the HR health check process annually so that we're constantly prioritising areas that are relevant to your business circumstances and your business objectives. At EI, we're passionate about making employment easier, and our HR partners do this by working as an extension of your business, continually improving the health of your HR function year after year.
So that is a great little summary. Now, Amanda, I would love to drill into a little bit more detail with you about how you serve financial advice firms. I know that we've got testimonials within the portal from some of your clients that have actually used you, and indeed we've spoken with firms that have used you. We know you do a great service. To my mind, I think a lot of financial advisors, when they're running a firm, you generally don't need HR up to a certain, I know you would probably argue with me, you need HR when you have your first employee, but usually we find people can kind of get by until they get up to maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe it's 10 staff. And the normal assumption is either the principal will just figure it out and they've got good people, so we don't need to worry about an HR function until they have a problem and they realise that wasn't a good strategy. Or they then think, oh, now at some point I have to employ an HR person and that's going to be another headcount and they're not revenue generating and they're going to be a cost to the business. So do you want to talk us through the different methods of HR and why you're a particularly good solution, particularly for these types of firms?
Look, absolutely. And to be honest, Sue, you've just touched on the most natural and organic development of people management that we see in the life cycle of businesses. We often see in smaller businesses that absorbed HR model. Okay, and I might just share my screen and now just to go through what those models are. So essentially, we have 3 models of HR we can break down to how an organization delivers its people function. And Sue, what you just described is absorbed HR, really normal model, particularly in small to medium-sized enterprises, that people managers and executives take up that function of being HR to their people. It's absorbed through our existing resourcing. There is generally a lack of specific HR or compliance-based expertise. We're doing what we logically know and essentially maybe seek that advice when and if we need it. Generally, as you've mentioned, when things are too late, we're trying to cure an issue rather than preventing it. And obviously, there tends to be a few compliance risks involved merely from the lack of dedicated HR or compliance expertise. I guess at the opposite end of the spectrum, and you sort of alluded to the fact that sort of, when do we get to the point where we need to hire someone? And it may miss that there's other models that are available to these sorts of businesses. And we're sort of speaking to the latter end of the scale, that traditional HR model. This is when I have a HR department. I might have multiple people in a HR department. I may have a learning and development manager, a recruitment manager, a compliance manager. And this is where you see larger businesses have more, I guess, specific HR departments that have various functions to look after the people functions of the business. Now, we may be making a few assumptions because we don't know all your members, but it's rare a small to medium-sized business can afford, as you mentioned, can actually afford a traditional HR department with all the expertise in it. So for these businesses, how do we get the business this people support that it actually needs to flourish and thrive without, I guess, putting the onus on all of our executive and people managers currently in the business, as well as actually creating that HR department? And we've coined that term, the lean HR model, and it's really effective for that small to medium-sized business that are in between that point of needing some people support, but I'm not at the point of needing full-time HR manager. So I guess lean as a concept is really about defining tightly what is adding value, what isn't, and what's going to focus us on, for the amount of time that we can invest, the most productive outcomes for that time. And essentially, it really is important to assure that we're accessing specialist expertise only when we need it, that we've got effective tools and infrastructure in place to help guide our people managers into essentially managing most of the people functions and their team's productivity. And at the end of the day, we're really able to move the dial from A to B to C without simply reacting to the day-to-day. We often see in small financial services providers that in any circumstance that we are essentially attempting to be everything to our people. And at the end of the day, it's simply the scale of change that's happening in workplace relations. One thing we can count on is it doesn't stay the same, and that's obvious over the last 10 years. So that lean HR function is really what we're attempting to make accessible to your Evolve Alliance members.
Excellent. And there are some great resources in the portal there around helping people with that people management, with the day-to-day building of your culture and making it a great place to work. And then you guys come in as that perfect addition when people really do need to have some good structure. We always draw the line. We don't provide any legal documentation, particularly around HR, because, as you say, employment law changes all the time, which is why we've got you guys now, because people can actually access their policies, their procedures and so forth without having to keep reinventing the wheel or worrying if they're up to date. You guys have got a great solution for it, haven't you?
We do. Now, just on that point, Sue, EI as a service provider, we are Australia's largest outsourced HR provider. However, we are a full service workplace provider. So we bring to a HR partner solution all the knowledge of employment law, payroll specialists, workplace technology specialists that support your HR partner. So whether it's a, executive contract, whether it's pay conditions from a particular award that we may not have understood underpin our staff, we are able to address any workplace consideration. And your HR partner is really a portal to all the expertise that Employment Innovations offers outside of that HR partner solution.
Yeah, that's great. So typically when a firm engages you, do you find that it's usually, I know you mentioned before, when it's too late, well, not too late, but it's fixing a problem rather than getting on the front foot? I know when we're talking with a lot of our firms, they hit that ceiling where they just say, look, I don't have time to have enough attention on this and go looking and making sure that we've got all of the right kind of frameworks in place. I need someone who knows what they're doing. Or it's when they've got a problem, and what started out as being a beautiful team and lovely people, then somebody had a problem and then they didn't handle it very well, and then it's costing the business a lot in toxic energy in the firm, and that rubs off on other people, but also from a financial perspective and the liability that the employer has there. So rather than waiting until it's too late, the better outcome, I think, is as soon as a firm starts looking and saying, well, we've got a team now that I'd prefer to spend my time in dealing with clients and driving the growth of the business and building the strategy, and I'm going to bring somebody in to be able to support us with the HR piece. Is that kind of the right thinking?
Look, absolutely. And without sounding too cheesy, we do have a saying in workplace relations, which is prevention is better than cure. In people management issues, trying to cure a people problem is significantly more difficult, and you have significantly less control than prevention strategies at the end of the day. So coming back to that lean HR, there are some core principles that we really believe in setting up for every customer who's using our HR partnering solution. And look, this applies whether you're using our HR partner solution or not. How do you set up a lean HR function for your business? And I might just share another slide if you're okay with that.
Of course.
Sue. So these are our core principles of lean HR. Number one, it is critical that we have software tools present in the organisation. We do not want to be running around after leave forms and manually onboarding someone into the business, preparing contracts, getting 21 signatures when we need to publish a policy. This is going to make us resource heavy, administration heavy. There's generally going to be gaps in our compliance if we've got paper-based manual processes. And believe it or not, the HR software environment has absolutely improved in Australia over the last decade. There are fantastic tools available where you can get access to your data, your interface of people management, and we can start to roll out effective, easy tools for our people managers to use in order to guide managing their teams.
Now, I should clarify here, because I know most firms would start at the very least of maybe using their accounting software. So if they've got Xero or maybe MyOb, they use the HR function in that, or the payroll function in that, and people can submit their leave. So that's probably the first step that most firms would take. But what you're talking about here is also then, development of policies and making sure people understand their requirements for that. It's a lot more than just that payroll.
Absolutely. And look, it's probably worth touching base on why technology is actually required to run a lean HR function. And I'd challenge a lot of anyone really out there to say, effective departments in businesses who doesn't use technology. 23, effective use of technology and the tools that we use to deliver the function speaks to how effective and productive the function actually is. So as I've mentioned, this is low cost technology compared to a people resource. It's automated, it happens while you're asleep, and it certainly gives everyone access to an interface where we can all collaborate from a people management perspective. And look, even if we take one area of this, for example, onboarding using automated technology that's been set up to suit your business, that we've got vetted contracts and policies and induction content and training all the way through. It is incredible the amount of time saving that comes from one hire in automating that process, and the amount of investment your current people are required to put in to make those processes actually occur. And as I've mentioned, this is just a few areas where technology touches on, but we are big believers that technology allows us, even from a service provider perspective, to service you in real time. We can update a policy and push it out to your employees without having to email it to you. You run around to your 10 staff members, get it signed and come back to us and file it in a manila cabinet. There are smarter ways to do things that will save the business time and ultimately improve your compliance. And we need to get HR above that in order to be strategic and delivering real results.
Right. So that's like the first level. And can people just choose to take the technology and not the support from you?
Oh, absolutely. You can use the technology and create your own lean HR environment in any circumstance, and use that in a self-managed way. Where your HR partner comes in, this is where we combine people and technology, is to manage the structure of your HR software, is to implement it. Let's set up your inductions, your teams, the content we'll be using, auditing the content going into it. And assisting you getting the best out of that tool. For example, when we're rolling out performance reviews, or if we are, or one-on-ones with our staff members, and these are touching on some of our other principles of lean HR, we have easy and effective ways to administer these initiatives.
Great. So that's really baseline level. But when we're engaging you, what are the actual things that your team will do for the firm? Absolutely.
Well, look, if I come back to this, the second principle is HR expertise, and that's a great segue, Sue, in a sense that when we have an agile business and a lean HR delivery, we're reliant on our people managers to get the best out of their team. But we can't assume that people managers have the expertise of a senior HR leadership. So at the end of the day, your people managers need direct and quick and effective access to HR expertise for difficult situations and also for longer term planning situations. Ensuring they've got that on-call access at any time to a single person who gets to know them, the business, the team, the plan, where we're going, is critical to get the most out of people and to set up that lean HR function. Yeah. I've touched on the people managers, and this is critical because we often see fantastic people managers who've sort of been promoted into that business because they were great at what they did, or into that position because they were great at what they do. Often they may not have been prepped with assistance on how to manage and get the best out of people and their team. And it can be really difficult to expect that from people without giving them that infrastructure or expertise or training as we go. So a big part of our lean HR methodology is that, your line managers are our HR partners' key stakeholders. They're there to serve them, to get the most out of them, to hear from them, and to equip them with the tools they need in order to best and effectively manage their team. So upskilling them, getting them into a point, giving them the tools they need is really critical to a lean HR function.
And is that done on a one-on-one basis? Like, will they have meetings or training sessions with you, or is there digital courses that you put together for them? How do you actually make that happen?
How we upskill your managers, there is an infinite availability to us, if that makes sense. So number one, we have to do a sort of a gap analysis and understand from your managers, where are they struggling? What would they like to improve in terms of managing their teams? Your HR partner can absolutely deliver for people management training, manager to leader training, how to get the best out of HR software, how to deal with poor performance, how to manage a grievance. These are all training that we can run as a program for managers. But it may be that managers need some assistance beyond HR. So if we need to use online training courses, if we need to create a development plan for managers, that's all part and parcel of this solution, and where your HR partner is there to help navigate the business.
Excellent.
Look, that fourth principle is critical, and it sort of speaks to the point you made, Sue, about how do I, everything was great until it exploded, and now it's not great, and now I need to fix it. We will never get to that point with that constant coaching and genuine conversations with our employees. A fourth principle is that we're constantly connecting, and it doesn't need to be an hour-long meeting. These are best off with these short rhythms of one-on-ones and catch-ups, and a structure of genuine dialogue between manager and employee. And this is a way we track and identify performance issues before they become a catastrophic event. And often in those sort of, Sorry
to interrupt. So are you saying, though, that it's your employment innovations person that's interviewing every one of the team that works in the financial planning business, or you're training the key people to hold those conversations?
We are training your people to hold those conversations with their team. It's really important that managers are connected to their team and the outputs they, desire from their team, and whether that's achievable. So providing managers with the tools in order to have effective one-on-ones, getting a rhythm and a pulse together to have these genuine conversations without it taking cumbersome meetings and things locked in. This is really important to identifying, keeping agile, and noting performance issues before they turn catastrophic, shall we say.
Yeah.
Obviously, happiness and feedback. We can guess how our people are feeling, but as leaders in the business, we also need to acknowledge they may not feel comfortable telling us really how they feel and how they're showing up to work every day. To be honest, there's a myriad of things that affect employees' engagement at work, and it can be personal aspects. So we are huge believers of getting metrics around what is important to us. If our employees' engagement and happiness is a core metric to the business, which we're pretty big believers that it should be for every business, particularly a service provider.
Yes.
Then we want a pulse check on this. And as soon as that dips below an acceptable standard that we've all agreed to, we want to know why and how, and we want to be getting that back up there. So it's this live sense of what's happening in our people management that's really key to being lean. Obviously, those workforce and planning metrics, time to hire. If we have a difficult employee that we need to manage out of the business and replace, this is a huge impact to productivity in a financial services business. This is someone who's providing advice that's revenue generating and can impact the bottom line, let alone the culture around it. So identifying turnover, both good and bad, having time to hire and metrics that are key based on productivity is we find, particularly in financial services, absolutely critical and a big part of what we would be there to do. And the last two principles, really critical. Where are we going, both at a company level, at a team level, at a personal level? Goal setting is often not done fantastically well outside of metrics, shall we say. And we're big believers that these sorts of business, and particularly the businesses we've worked with in the financial services space, tend to maybe miss the behaviors. What behaviors, regardless of role, regardless of who you are, what behaviors align with who we are and what we do and what we believe with. And it's really important that some of our goals are speaking to these behaviors. So we are big on cascading goals, linking them vertically and horizontally, and ensuring that we're all pulling the ship in the same direction. That's a decent piece of work, and HR is really critical to that sort of planning in an organization. And look, finally, is that continuous improvement. Things change. What we thought happened 6 months ago, hey, it might be different today. There might be an opportunity. We might have a different environment. Priorities change. We understand that, and we'll adapt and change with the customer and help navigate that as we go. But really importantly, we'll be evaluating did it work? And it's really important we put metrics to all of these projects and initiatives that we're rolling out for various customers. did it work? And if it didn't, can we improve it? And what small iterations can we? So having an infrastructure that's easy to determine the impact of what you're doing is critical to having that lean HR function.
Fantastic. So, okay, this all sounds great. Let's say I'm sitting in my business, I'm saying, yes, finally, Amanda, you can solve these challenges that I don't like spending time on. What does it look like in terms of pricing? I know that we have negotiated some great rates for our Evolve Alliance members. Can you talk us through that?
We absolutely. Now, look, traditional HR consulting, let me put your mind at ease. We have absolutely moved away from hourly and daily based consulting. The reason being is it's not very effective in people management. We find our customers attempt to do everything they can to avoid paying an hourly fee until it's all too late, and then they have to pay more now to fix the problem.
Yeah.
We want an environment where we're proactively collaborating and working together without fear that it's going to impact the cost. So we essentially work this on a flat fee per month, and it includes an estimated or expected level of interaction hours with our customer per week. This is actually quite flexible. So if you feel you need a bit more, or you feel you need a bit less, we are able to flex up and flex down. But as an example, for a 25 employee business or a business with less than 25 employees up to, we'd be looking at around $1,590 a month to have that HR partner support. And that is, again, the benefit compared to potentially hiring a part-time manager or someone internally here is that I can reach out to you anytime throughout the week. Something happens Monday morning, something happens Friday afternoon, it's Wednesday, I'm not dictated by the days and the times that you work. There is that level of unlimited access at any time, based on the assumption that we'll be interacting with you, in those contact hours on the average of 3 to 4 hours per week. As you can see, this can flex up and flex down. We also have the option of an on-site or local HR partner. And look, let's face it, whilst a lot of our world is virtual these days, hence what we're doing right now, Sue, there's times where you want a HR professional with you, a difficult meeting, a grievance or a investigation that needs to happen, and we need that impartial third party. We recognise that whilst we won't be sitting in your office 3 days a week, there is absolutely great incentives to have your HR partner there and available on site if and when you need them. It might be running training, it might be, anything that you determine with your HR partner, but essentially that looks at $1,950 per month with 20 hours on site built in that you can use at any time throughout the engagement.
And so when you sign on to an engagement, let's say you take the $1,590 and then it turns out that you haven't used the 3 to 4 hours per week. Does that carry over to the following month? How does that work in practice?
Look, it doesn't, but our HR partners will be making sure you do use the time in any circumstance. I have to say those 3 to 4 hours of contact hours per week goes pretty quickly if there's a few things to fix and address. And in any circumstance, you don't need to be talking to us. Once we have the plan, you'll come in on a Monday morning, you'll know what your HR partner's working on because we've got a deadline and a timeline to deliver a certain HR priority. Also noting there's that reactionary part to people management. For all the planning, something can happen that we didn't plan. And your HR partner's there to, capture or assist and support with any of those reactive people issues, including representation should something go really wrong and we're subject to some level of workplace claim at the end of the day. So that is all bundled into that fee.
Okay. And so if it goes over, like if there is an incident and suddenly, we're needing 10 hours in a week, is that just you added hourly rate?
No. So how it works is this is an average. We absolutely expect you to use more some weeks and maybe less other weeks, but this is an average. So the only thing that I guess that would impact, Sue, is this over time we were consistently averaging more of those contact hours per week. Your HR partner would sit down and say, look, we've only got the time to deliver these 3 things instead of these 4 things, or we can adjust the engagement slightly depending on the requirement that you need. So we've completely departed from that hourly charges in addition. We really want that flat monthly fee that you've got to a dedicated sort of cost that you know for the business.
And, you know, it's great for business planning. You know exactly what your costs are going to be. And as you said earlier, it is definitely at $1,590 a month. It's a lot cheaper than having an employed person on site for those, you know, Monday 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's it. And too bad if anything else happens throughout the week. So that's great. You do also have the option for the technology on its own, don't you?
You do. So look, in any circumstance, as I've mentioned, a core part of a HR partner or a lean HR methodology is that HR software. So this is a requirement. If you're going to take that HR partner solution, we will be saying, you know, we need HR software in order to effectively and easily service you and for you to get the benefits of getting above the admin and the day-to-day. So in any circumstance, this is based on a per employee per month billing. You've got the options of premium and platinum for Evolve Alliance members, and we've certainly passed on a discount from those market rates of $10 per employee for premium or $14 per employee per month for platinum.
And what's the difference in what you get for platinum?
Look, there's a small feature difference. For example, you know, we've got custom branding, custom fields in platinum, whereas premium, and I can easily share with you the various subscription plans for the HR software.
Well, there's a link to that in the portal, so people can go and do that comparison table. That's fine. So again, incredibly reasonable. I mean, even with a really tiny team, you still need to be able to make sure your staff know about the different policies. I never forget, one of my clients had a huge issue in their business, and they had a beautiful team. They were lovely people. We used to run their strategy days for them every year, and they were just so lovely. And then there was an issue where an older staff member, so there was somebody in their late 30s working closely with someone. It was their first job out of school. They were early 20s. The person in the early 20s came to the boss and said, I think this person's been bullying me. At the same time, this person saw that was happening, and this person sent an email off to the boss saying, actually, this person's bullying me. So suddenly the business owner had this problem in what was a beautiful team earlier, and then they had these bullying claims, and they actually came unstuck because they'd never had a policy in the business that taught their staff. They didn't have a bullying policy or an anti-bullying policy. And the owner said to me, are you kidding me? These are grown-ups. These are great people. They've never had a problem until this issue came out. Why on earth would I need an anti-bullying policy? But because they didn't have that, it actually ended up costing quite a lot in the business. So it's these kind of things that you don't think you need or you don't think of, and you don't know how to keep them up to date. That's all included through this system, right?
Look, it absolutely is. So any HR documentation need, we don't want you or your people managers spending time on that. That's what your HR partner's there to do. And it's part of that second principle of access to HR expertise. I need X document, and can you get it to me, rather than me spending time researching how I need to put this together. And that's what your HR partner's there to deliver. So look, you've probably hit on a really important point, Sue, because part of HR, number one, is protecting the business. You know, at the end of the day, Australia is hugely regulated, and there's a few core aspects that we need to tick off on just to protect the business. Bullying policy, a workplace health and safety policy, equal opportunity and diversity policies. These are all very much recommended, not because your people aren't well-versed or hold these as values, but because it protects your business in the event something goes wrong. So a couple of levels to look at HR. Certainly protecting the business from that compliance piece is a core aspect of risk management in HR, which your HR partner's there to deliver.
That's excellent. Look, Amanda, I think that's a brilliant summary of the services that you provide. We are big fans of what you do. And as I say, anybody who's ever had a problem with people in their business will absolutely get how important this is to get right. So in terms of people wanting to engage with your services, we will have a link in the post here so people know how to access you directly. For anybody watching this who is not an Evolve Alliance member, other than that's crazy, you should be. But if you're not and you choose not to be, they can still come and access you directly. Of course, they just don't get those discounted services. Is there a parting word of wisdom that you would like to share, or anything that people should know about before they contact you?
Don't turn a blind eye to HR, because if you do, it will come back and make sure it opens your eyes in any circumstance. You can get the best out of your people. You can have HR support without it costing the world. You can have access to senior HR expertise without hiring someone direct. It just requires a consideration of what model of HR is right for your business.
Perfect. Very well said. Well, thank you so much for your time, Amanda. We look forward to seeing you help so many more of our clients in future.
Thank you so much, Sue.
Cheers.